I love you, David.
I love you, Claudia.
That's it. My next vacation, I'm staying home with the cat.
The news headlines now on BBC One from Julia Somerville.
Sunday's talks on the coal dispute appear to be on again tonight. After another exchange of letters between the Miners' Union and the National Coal Board, both sides say they'll be there, although the place is yet to be agreed. The board says it'll be phoning the union in the morning. Arthur Scargill says he'll be waiting for their call. The Prime Minister, meanwhile, has said there'll be no government intervention in the coal dispute. The best hope, she said, was for more miners to return to work. The death toll in the outbreak of salmonella food poisoning at a Wakefield psychiatric hospital has risen to 19. The latest victim was a 53-year-old woman. The Area Health Authority has rejected union claims that there'd been a shortage of equipment at the hospital. An all-party committee of MPs has called for strict measures to prevent acid rain. They say the pollution, most of it from power stations, is one of the major environmental hazards facing the industrial world. The Central Electricity Generating Board, however, says the MPs have based their report on factual errors, and they warn that new controls would push up electricity prices by 10%. 30 schoolchildren are in hospital tonight after being overcome by chlorine fumes at a swimming pool at Hinckley in Leicestershire. The gas was formed after a chemical leak from a delivery tanker. None of the children is seriously ill. John Lloyd's hopes of reaching the semi-finals of the US Open Tennis Championships came to an end in New York tonight. After winning 3 of the first 4 games, he lost in straight sets to the defending champion Jimmy Connors. Britain's youngest surviving heart transplant patient, 14-year-old Adrian Walton, has been giving his first press conference. 12 days after his operation at Harefield Hospital, Adrian managed to walk in front of the cameras and said he enjoyed being famous. Asked if he was missing his sister, Adrian said no. Typical boy. Well, that's all from us from the newsroom tonight. Good night.
And these are tomorrow evening's programmes on BBC One. Cartoon entertainment from Tom and Jerry at 6:55 is followed by Blankety Blank at 7 o'clock, which begins a new series with Les Dawson hosting the comedy quiz. And the comedy continues at 7:35 with the first in a new series of Allo, Allo. There's international athletics from Crystal Palace at 8:05, and a new season of feature films for Friday evenings begins at 9:25 with Black Sunday. Bruce Dern, Robert Shaw and Marta Keller star in a tense thriller about a terrorist plot to assassinate the President of the United States. And with highlights of the evening's international athletics at 11:45, that's the lineup for tomorrow evening on BBC One. And with a look at the weather details, including the holiday prospects, here's Michael Fish.
Good evening to you. With high pressure on the scene, the weather's generally going to be fine and dry in most places in the next 2 or 3 days. On the continent, the weather is far from settled. As a matter of fact, there's an area of low pressure sitting down there in northern parts of Italy, given some rather nasty weather in the last day or two, but hopefully things will be cheering up as the weekend goes on. But more about that in a minute. Back to this country, and as I say, we have this area of high pressure. That's going to be with us for at least the next couple of days, but all the time toppling away southwards and tending to decline, and that means to say this frontal system will creep in from the west. A very weak affair, but even so, bringing a little bit of rain into northern and western parts during the course of tomorrow and the first part of Saturday, and perhaps even a spot or 2 of rain to southern parts before the weekend's out. But generally speaking, the south probably a good deal of fine, dry weather, but only to begin with, because there is another nasty-looking low developing as it moves out from Newfoundland, and that'll come whistling across the Atlantic later on in the weekend, bringing some wet and windy weather but most of it to northern and western parts. However, that's a long way off. Let's look at the picture for midday tomorrow, because you see that we still have the high pressure on the scene then, ridging up across the country. One thing of note, though, the winds are still in the northeast over that southeastern corner, so still a bit of a chill there. And there's that front across northwestern parts, but you might not believe it, but it is going to be very weak and worth almost forgetting. However, as far as the weather's concerned, well, tonight we will find 1 or 2 spots of rain in northwestern parts, 1 or 2 showers perhaps in the southeast, but the main thing about tonight, especially in central and southern areas, that it is going to be another one of those jolly chilly nights that we've had fairly recently. And then for tomorrow, well, after that chilly start, for most places, a dry day with a reasonable amount of sunshine. Still on the cool side for the time of year, though, 17 or 18 degrees centigrade is just creeping up towards the mid-60s Fahrenheit. Certainly on the cool side in the southeastern corner, where there'll be rather more in the way of cloud, and 1 or 2 light showers as well, more especially near to the coast. In these northern and western parts of Scotland and in Northern Ireland, you'll have more in the way of cloud. Still some dry weather, still some bright weather as well, but just here and there, 1 or 2 spots of light rain and drizzle. And then for the rest of the weekend and further afield, well, for this country, as I said at the beginning, at least in the south, a good deal of dry weather, but northern parts, after a dry start, getting rather unsettled, eventually ending up with some wet and windy weather. Over Scandinavia and eastern parts of Europe on the cool side too, and rather unsettled, some rain or showers around, perhaps some thundery rain as well. Any thundery showers in central parts of Europe, though, dying out, and in the Mediterranean, as usual, fine and warm.
The Great British Holiday.
Henry, you've forgotten to bring the mallet, the cooking stove, the tin opener, the toothbrushes. Is there anything else you should have remembered? Henry!
Being a blood donor, Henry was asked by the blood transfusion service to give blood just before his holiday.
Henry?
And took extra care to attend. Henry knows his contribution is always needed, especially in the holiday season, when so many donors are away. It's a good thing someone remembers the important things. Before your holiday, give blood.
That was a public information film. And there we end our evening on BBC One, but you'll find Brian Matthew keeping you company with Round Midnight on Radio 2 at the moment, and Charles Nove takes charge of Thursday's Night Ride, which will be starting at 1 o'clock. But from all of us on BBC One, with the time now coming up to 5.5 minutes to midnight, good night to you.